Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Creative Kingdom Society, the show about the people behind the magic. I'm Jake Ballentine with Chuck Schofield, and today we're talking about the Tower of Terror episode of Behind the Attraction. But before we get into that episode, let's talk about what content we have been consuming in the Creative Kingdom. Chuck, let's start with you.
Well, I'm excited to be here, brother. Thanks for inviting me back. I'm excited to, I was angsty about before doing this episode and thinking about doing the next one on Space Mountain. And the first thing, ironically, I wrote in my notes was, when do the other 5 episodes come out of Behind the Attraction? And then, like, not to rib you too much, but so much time has passed since we last recorded. Like, yes, all 5 are already out.
Yes.
So we're excited to do the castles, the hotel, the small world, the trains and monorail, and the Hall of the Presidents. All of those sound fun. I will admit that they all sound, how can I say this as positively as I can about this beautiful show that I really do enjoy thoroughly. It almost seems like they did the best rides first and like are doing like increasingly less cool, right? Like I don't know, like maybe I hope they change my mind. I don't know.
Well,
but it's been a few. Go ahead. Sorry.
It's been a very busy month for me, and I apologize for that. But
no, I'm not. It's okay. It's okay. But it's just like I've consumed a lot of content between then and now, so I do have several I want to plug. But you have the cooler consumption of content story. I mean, I've got some cool stuff to plug. I'm really excited.
Well, let's go with you first. Then we'll go to my
okay.
But I want to say this about the show.
Yeah.
Is I haven't. Well, it's ceremoniously released the next 5 episodes. They just kind of released them. They didn't really make much of a big deal about it. I'm not quite sure why. Of those 5, I've gone out of order. I've only watched so far. I've watched the trains and monorail one, and I watched the Hall of Presidents one. I found the Hall of Presidents one to be absolutely fascinating. It might not be like the attraction that you're like, oh, that's the one, but the actual episode about it, like, I can't wait to talk about that because there is so much cool stuff. And our good friend, I use that lightly, but our good friend that we have a one-way relationship with, us to him, Todd James Pierce, is he is on the Hall of Presidents episode quite a bit.
Sweet. Do you think he was like interviewed once and then like they just chopped it up for the 10 episodes?
Oh, for sure. Of course.
Okay. Yeah. I wonder how many they did that with, or because like some of the Imagineers, it looks like it was the same sitting, but some of them, it looks like different sittings. And like, I don't know how they do that, but that would be interesting to find out. And I'm sure that he added to that. Like, I haven't watched any of the 5 new ones yet.
Okay.
But I am excited to watch that one now too. Yeah.
My guess with it would be like with the Imagineers, if you notice, I think they only did one new interview, and then they use other interviews
for older clips probably.
Yeah. And like with someone like Todd James Pierce, they probably said, hey, we want you for these 5 different episodes. They asked him a bunch of questions.
Yeah,
they probably have 5 hours of content of him talking, and they're using a total of 10 minutes of it throughout the whole thing. But that's how these things go.
Yeah. But okay, so before we you tell us about your most recent trip report, I did want to plug a few things that I consumed. A few excellent episodes of Mickey Views News, where he did some really good commentary, specifically the one where he began to talk about his most recent trip to Disneyland since he was 3 years old. And
Yeah.
at the end of it, his optimism was renewed, you know. I thought that was a really good riff he did at
Yeah.
the end of that one. The beginning was good critique and commentary of other stuff going on. But in that vein of good critical commentary, there was an article on Mice Chat entitled, I'm sorry, I'm not a shareholder, so I don't schedule my news consumption around the end of quarters.
Yes.
But I guess there was a third quarter results, Disney's mixed third quarter results and difficult questions post that Dusty Sage put up. And I thought his last paragraph was fantastic, that I would like to just read real fast. He did good analysis of the whole call, but at the end he says, "We are reminded that Disney has always been at its best when it was led by a creative visionary who had a financial Jiminy Cricket on his shoulder and not the other way around. Bob Chapek was forced into his new role at the worst of times. He has kept the company afloat and managed to squeeze a massive amount of bloat and cost out of the organization in the process. That was his job, and he did so well. But now that the tides are turning, we wonder when a creative visionary will return to Disney, as the company seems to be in the process of purging creatives at all levels through restructuring, relocations, and the lack of a creative at the top of the pyramid to lead the way. For a creative company, it appears that there is an imbalance at the top, and that's a concerning condition that it would be wise for the board of directors to keep an eye on. We aren't saying that Bob Chapek needs to go. Don't ask Tom Corliss, he would disagree. But at WDW, right? News Today. We aren't saying that Bob Chapek needs to go, but he certainly needs a creative counterpart, and not just creatives who report to him, to keep the budget cutting and restructuring from becoming more important than the creative product Disney must continue to produce to maintain its leadership position. I thought that paragraph was so well written and perfectly encapsulated the creative problem versus the money, the business versus well said. Kudos.
Yep.
Hats off to Dusty Sage right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good one. And they had a little survey at the end, and it asked right after that, and it says, "Do you think is the Disney company on the right track?" And the choices were: Disney is on the right track to remain the leader in the industry. That's choice A. Choice B: Disney is doing well but could do better. I'm not sure, and Disney is on the wrong track. 53% of the people that responded said Disney's on the wrong track. And I don't know if that's just a snapshot of the Mice Chat audience, obviously, or the more general audience. I don't know. I don't know if the general audience even notices yet.
Yeah, we're so deep in it. It's hard to keep ourselves to know what's really going on. I was spoiler alert for in a few minutes, I will talk about my trip that I just went to Disneyland. But I was talking with a cast member, two different cast members in the Pixar store, I forget what it's called. It's the one that has Bing Bong in the middle of it. There's a candy store there. It's in Pixar Pier. And we were talking with these two cast members in there, and they said it boggles their mind how often people come in and have no clue who any of these characters are in the store. And they're like, "Oh, these are Pixar characters. That's Bing Bong from Inside Out. What's Inside Out? Oh, and what is this? Like a backpack? What is this backpack with a bird in
And
it?"
Bing Bong is a character in Inside Out, like that fox and that cat from Pinocchio. And what even is the cat's name? Like, you know what I mean?
No,
Like,
I know, but they also
it's
said
so
they didn't know
obscure.
they didn't
Like,
know who Kevin was from Up. They didn't know
but that
who.
too, that's an obscure character. That's not like a Mickey Mouse, like those are
Yes, but
weird.
what she was saying is she was talking about all this stuff in the store, and after talking to these people who don't know what this is, pretty much of Pixar movies, they've seen Toy Story, and maybe Monsters Inc., and maybe Coco, and that's about it.
Maybe
People coming
Ratatouille.
in and saying, "Do you?" They said a question they get almost daily is, "Where do you have Boss Baby stuff?" And
Oh,
I
are
was
you
like, "What?"
serious?
Yeah, they said they get that all the time. People asking
What?
questions about, "Do you have Boss Baby stuff?" And they're like, "No, it's a Disney movie. Isn't that here?" And my point is that I think there's a lot of general public who just choose a trip to Disneyland because they go, "Oh, that's a simple, if I'm planning a fun family vacation, my planning is over once I click buy. I don't have to plan anything else. I know that it's a fun activity."
Not Disney. Go to Universal. Don't go to Disney if you don't want to plan anything.
No, I'm just saying that's what they think, and
No,
that's
I
what they
know,
do.
I know.
And so I think that there's a lot of that. I don't know, in terms of the company and direction, it's going to be interesting because as long as the stock continues to go up and up and up, I don't see the shareholders wanting them to change, and they've made it really clear that they're the most important. Um, they're the people that they are catering to the most.
But if there's any silver lining there, and it was illustrated in this Tower of Terror episode, actually, and we can riff on it more in a minute, but this gem of an attraction was greenlit by Eisner as the money
Yep.
and business guy, and Wells as his also a business guy, but like his creative synergistic partner, but also breaks, and they kept each other balanced. They weren't exactly a Walt and Roy scenario, but
Yeah.
it was an illustration of that sort of synergy and balance at the top, right? Of two co-equal guys, not like one reporting to the other, but also this show itself is funded by Bob Chapek at the top. Like there's a silver lining there that even if we can't be so cynical as to just say, well, if it keeps making money and keeps making profits for the shareholders, then it's never going to be fixed unless there's some sort of financial hurt or pain.
Well,
I think there's still a way for Jiminy Cricket to like sneak into the conscience,
yes. And I agree with you. And I think my optimism says that what's going on in the company over the last year is their effort to say, we can't have what happened the previous 6 months again. And we need to focus on finances first. And then we're going to go back to focusing on the creative and go back to focusing on
It's
guest experience.
it's funny how I thought you were being too cynical and I wanted to pull you back, and now I think you're being too optimistic and kind, and I want to be more cynical. Because part of that, like, I get what you're trying to say, but like when you say we have to decrease capital expenditure in the parks by 5 or 6 or 700 million dollars between 2020 and 2021. Meanwhile, we just bought Fox for $40 billion. Like,
Well, yeah, but
what
that was before. That
yeah,
wasn't post COVID. That was before COVID.
yeah, but like, why are we over here penny pinching on the parks for a couple hundred million while we're out here spending 40 billion on Fox or 9 billion on Disney Plus, or it's like, wait a minute, like it's still, as kind as I can read the numbers, it still doesn't seem right or fair, or
Yeah. No,
I don't know.
I totally get what you're saying. And we can go back and forth between being too cynical and too positive and too whatever. But I'll say this, I being a Disney fan who's deep in the weeds, it's easy to feel cynical lately over the last, especially 6 months, year, really 6 months. But all I needed to renew my positivity and optimism was 2 days, 2 days at Disneyland. That's all I needed.
I only wanted to plug one other thing.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. You go.
But we've done it before, but part 12 and 13 of the Book of Hench on Disney History Institute totally tickled all of my Epcot loving heart, with what John Hench did for Epcot during those years in those 2 episodes. But I do not want to take away, besides that speed bump, from that beautiful segue into your trip report, because just like the Mickey Views guy said that his visit to Disneyland renewed his optimism and hope and relit that fire. You just went and you just had a good trip, and tell us all about it.
Oh, we had such an amazing time. It was so much fun and it was so nice. And really, when it came down to it, renewed the whole fandom and whole optimism and being there was such a fun thing. They were doing.
We should probably specify where. I mean,
Where?
I know where, but we didn't say where yet. For the audience, you got to tell them. We can't just say.
I said 2 days at Disneyland.
I missed.
I said 2 days at Disneyland.
Yeah, you went to Disneyland and California Adventure, right?
One day at California Adventure, one day at Disneyland. And this was just me and my wife going. My mother-in-law watched our son, so that was really fun. Just to, they talk about it just being all the time. Talk about it, people who don't understand talk about it just being for kids. And we had such a magical time at the park. And my favorite thing at the parks to do is to not be in a rush and to just enjoy the atmosphere, enjoy the people that you get to meet, enjoy talking to the cast members. I think my favorite part was we were in the Sorcerer's, what do you call that thing? In the Sorcerer's, it's in California Adventure where you have the animation thing. Then you go in the Sorcerer's Dungeon, Sorcerer's Workshop.
Yeah.
So we're inside of there, and it's close to closing, close to the close of the park. And we were the only ones in there. We're the only ones in that room. And this cast member comes over and starts talking to us and asking us questions. And then she's like, "Well, you guys seem like you're interested in this stuff. Here, can I just show you all of the little Easter eggs around this room?"
Cool.
I'm like,
That's cool.
"Yeah, absolutely." And you could tell that even though there's so much news about cast members and what's going on with them, like this woman was thrilled to be there. She loved everything about being there because all she wanted to do was she was just excited that we were people who were interested in what was on these walls. I didn't know, oh, this wall's the villain wall. This wall's the hero wall. I never noticed. She said she referred to it as creepy Walt. I had never noticed it. But when you come in and you turn around, up high on the wall, there's like it's kind of ghost-like, but it's just a picture of Walt's face, and it's kind of faded up in the corner. That's kind of like overlooking everything. And she's like, yeah, we all call that creepy Walt because he's watching everything. And just stuff like that was so much fun just to be able to experience that. I did get to experience, they have a much better system for the virtual queues. The virtual queues, the system now for Rise of the Resistance and for Web Slingers, it is so much easier than it used to be. The app has changed. The place where you do it has changed. Or not where you do it has changed, but what you're able to do is they just reversed it. Instead of clicking to get it and then clicking your boarding group, you can select your boarding group before 7 a.m. so that your boarding group is already selected. So you only push one button and then it gets it. I couldn't believe it. For Rise of the Resistance, we got boarding group 19. We got boarding group 19, and it happened so quick that the only reason why I didn't miss it is because I posted it on the stories of the Creative Kingdom,
There's your
Instagram.
plug. There's a good plug for the Instagram.
Yes,
Because
there you
that
go.
was fun to watch your trip in real time with your Instagram story. So that was good. Yeah.
But the only reason why I didn't miss how soon it was because my sister and your cousin Heidi said, "Oh my gosh, that's such an early time. Has your time come up yet?" And then
Oh, wow.
I went, "Oh shoot." And I looked over and I realized that it had come up 10 minutes earlier and it said, "Go over right now before whatever time."
That is social media at its finest. That is how it's supposed to work, right? That's how the hive mind is supposed to remind us of stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
well
days we open the park, we close the park.
No kid.
No
That's
kid.
fun.
Full
Yeah.
disclosure, we did not do the afternoon. We went back to our hotel for the afternoon. So we did the whole morning. Then we stayed all the way till close. We had a blast. It just renewed my excitement for the park. And then the last thing was that Halloween fireworks show is the coolest thing. It is. I think it's their best show that they do.
So in addition to going, you went to the Oogie Boogie thing?
No. So I'm doing Oogie Boogie in October. October 28th, I'm doing Oogie Boogie. So we're going back
so
and
you
doing Oogie Boogie then.
a Halloween fireworks show at
They are
Disney.
doing the Halloween fireworks show that used to be only for the Halloween party. They're just doing that as the regular fireworks show at Disneyland.
Oh wow.
That's so cool. you get that fireworks show, the one where Jack's the host. It is so cool. Have you seen it in the past? No, you've never done the party. So
I've seen the Jack thing.
Maybe 2019. I think in 2019 they did it.
I'm not a big fireworks guy.
Yes, I remember this.
So I don't know.
Anyway,
it was
amazing.
Fun to follow you guys' trip. You got a lot of good pictures. It was fun to follow the Instagram that day. Yeah, or both those days. But say something real quick about was Marvel Land any good, or was it?
Yeah, I love Marvel Land. I think it's a lot of fun. I'm excited for them to add the one more attraction they're going to add. What I really like about it is how much movement and motion is going on. There's a new show going on all over the place. There's always something happening.
Star Wars Land was missing.
Yeah, exactly. And so there's always a new show. You got the show up on the big building. You got the Spider-Man thing. I finally got to see, which I didn't get to see it before. It was too long of a wait with my son. But we got to see the Doctor Strange show, which honestly, from what I heard from other people, I think nighttime's your only time worth seeing. I think in the day, I think it's okay. But at night, when I saw it, it was awesome because you had all the lights going on. The effects were so much better, and people said it was really hot during the day also sitting on the ground, but at night it was super cool. Did web slingers again. That was a lot of fun. We ate at the test kitchen is what I'm large piece of chicken, but test kitchen. um ate there. We had fun. I think it was really fun. I think it's not huge. It's not a big place. And I think that any criticism about it is that it's not a big place. Also, criticism that there's only one new ride. But, one of my friends, we forget about this, but one of my friends went for the first time in years. And I said, "What'd you think of Avengers Campus?" And they said, "Wow, what perfect segue into this." They said, the Guardians of the Galaxy ride was so cool. That's cool that they just built this thing. Like, they thought that was a part of the new Avengers Campus. And
Which
so
shows how much of a difference there is between the general audience and people like us. Right?
exactly like that's it. Cause in their mind, they were just like, "Oh, it's new. This is new. This is in the Avengers Campus." And they loved it and they had a great time. So I had a blast. But two other things that were interesting for the sake of this show is I happened to run into WDW News Today's Tom Corliss, which was interesting. Just happened to run into the guy. Like, we were in the same store walking through in California Adventure, and I looked over and we were wearing masks because it was inside, but I recognized his short sleeve plaid shirts.
That is
They
hilarious.
wear
Yeah.
he wears the same style of shirts all the time. This is what I noticed. That and a buzz cut. And I was like, this was my actual thought was, yeah, that guy looks a lot like that Tom guy from
That's
WDW News
crazy.
Tonight, but he's too tall. But what am I talking about?
Was
I've
it
only
tall?
seen him
Yeah.
on video.
How would you know? Yeah, yeah.
I've only seen him on video, but I just went, "Oh, he's too tall." I didn't know that. He
When
was a
you
pretty tall
texted
guy.
me that picture, like I recognized him immediately and thought that was awesome and serendipitous and really cool that you just happened to run into him. But then I started doing the math and I thought, wait, I watched his live show last night from his studio in Florida. And here you are texting me a picture the next morning. Was he on a red eye or something? And then you
Well, you got
explained
to
it.
think East Coast, West Coast time.
Yeah.
East
Yeah.
Coast, West Coast time. So I think he's because I was asking him, "Oh, where are you here because of Oogie Boogie last night?" And he said, "No, I had to do the show last night, but we flew in this morning." So we
Yeah.
flew in, and then he was there. I think they probably
Dude,
went
that
straight from
guy
the airport.
nonstop, man.
And I
Nonstop.
asked him, I said, I showed him my phone. I was like, I literally, my phone is open to your page because I was reading about the Christmas party thing, the after hours Christmas party. And he had a funny response. He's like, "Oh yeah, I had to read about it from there because I'm not working today. I'm here to have fun." And I was like, "Oh, cool. Good for you." But he was a
That's
really nice
cool.
guy. He was a lot of fun. Then the next day I ran into David from Fresh Baked, and he was really cool.
The odds of running into him are much higher, but
That's
that's
true.
still really cool. That's
That's
still
true.
really cool.
But all that happened was I was in line. And he was going the opposite direction. And I just kind of yelled a "fresh baked." And he looks over at me and he goes, "Hey." And I said, "Hey, thanks for the content. Love it." And he was like, "Thank you." And then that was it. But
So
he was a
weird.
nice guy.
So weird. We are such nerds. Like what a weird, like, in what normal situation, in what, no, like, could you just imagine strangers yelling out "fresh baked" to some stranger in the street anywhere, anywhere? Like, like,
I think it happens to him every time he goes to
oh,
Disneyland.
I'm sure it happens to him every time. Yeah, But no, so yeah, no, that's exciting. I mean, inevitably on the show, we're going to talk about trip reports or our own commentary or experiences with themed entertainment, themed space, themed parks, themed dining experiences. Theme, but I love that you were also able to consume all of that themed entertainment and run into these themed entertainment commentators and commenters and talking
Yeah.
heads
Yeah.
and here we are talking about it again and your friend making that nice, giving us that nice segue right in through Avengers Campus into this
Yes.
topic of the day, the episode on the Hollywood Tower of Terror, Twilight Zone, Hollywood. I forgot the official name, but I'm gonna just go ahead and say it up front. If we hadn't been alluded to it already, so far this was my least favorite episode, and I have the least amount of notes to talk about it with. That's not to say that I don't love the attraction and that I didn't thoroughly love the episode, because I did. I just feel a little bad that, like, I mean, our Star Wars episode was too long because it, a lot, but then this one is a little less. But what did you think overall? Started off and tell us what you thought overall of the episode, and maybe what some of your highlights were.
Well, I think it's interesting, and I wonder why you have that reaction of this being the least interesting. And sometimes I think the more recent history something is, there's something magical about someone old telling about something that happened when they were young. There's something magical about someone telling something who wasn't actually there, who learned about it secondhand. And I think that sometimes we romanticize the past and make think, maybe if this episode was done in 50 years, the Tower of Terror episode might have been the very best episode, because you might have a guy like, what was his name? Coulter Winn. You might have him at 80 years old telling his story about it, like Wally Crump in the Haunted Mansion episode. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. I really like this ride. I love the attraction. I love the original Tower of Terror. I have to say that the Guardians of the Galaxy has grown on me. I was kind of a loyalist, upset about it at the beginning. Now I've decided to drop that, and I can go on Tower of Terror in Florida, and then I can go on Guardians of the Galaxy in California. But some of the things that were most interesting to me, let's kind of start at the beginning, but the concept, like where this came from. And what I loved, and maybe this might tie into our conversation earlier about where the company is at, but when they created this ride, they had parameters to work within. And sometimes those parameters spark the most creative ideas. And the first one was, we are expanding Hollywood Studios. At the time, it was called MGM Studios, but we're expanding. And when they were expanding, they said, well, first of all, this has to be Hollywood themed. This has to be Hollywood themed. That was their first idea. Now, I don't know if today they would say it has to be Hollywood themed, because they'd say, well, it has to be IP themed. But they said it has to be Hollywood themed. Then secondly, even though it didn't become an actual hotel, they were talking about putting together a hotel, a real hotel. And they said, we'd really like to have something that involves drops, some kind of drop ride. And they put that together, and they have those parameters.
And it wasn't just Hollywood. It was Hollywood of the 20s or 30s.
Yes.
And the parameter that it had to be from an acquired IP, which I thought was fascinating.
Yes.
Because it wasn't like, and I think acquired is probably the wrong verb. She probably should have said license.
Yeah, because they didn't acquire Tower.
Yeah.
They didn't acquire Twilight Zone.
No, CBS still owns it. Still owned it then. Still owns it now, I think. Or Paramount, CBS. I think they're still owned by them. But that was curious to me. Like I understand that there wasn't necessarily an elevator related something in any property Disney already owned, but I'm very curious where that Michael Eisner riff came from. Like, and it has to be from a licensed IP. Was that a way to distance the company if it failed? Or was that like a way to like put out feelers to see what they could buy next? Like, I would love to get in his head and see where he was going with that. But I like how you're setting it up. Like, that is an important way to start the episode and to start our conversation about it, because it's the parameters. I'm sorry, there's a ringing phone in the background.
That's fine.
But we can just ignore it. But whoever is calling me, I don't mean to sound like Jim Cornette right now. I don't care. I don't want none and nothing. No, thank you. So, but that those sort of parameters make the sort of creative tension.
Yes.
Right. And that make like a pressure cooker and make the ingredients, get together, and make something come to fruition, even if you had to ditch the idea of it being a real hotel. The rest of it, they nailed.
Totally. And the idea, like you said, parameters, a creative team, much like Haunted Mansion. This was a very, very much a team effort, But I wonder about the license IP. I'm thinking about the Great Movie Ride. Rest in peace, Great Movie Ride. But with that ride, that was all licensed IP. And I wonder if at the time their thought was, this park is not the Disney park. This is we're going to be all of Hollywood. We're going to try to basically license anything that, unless Universal owns it, we're going to try to license it to do it here.
I bet that's what it was. I bet you just nailed it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not what they're doing now, but at the time, I don't know what else was there, but I know they used to have the car stunt show. There's nothing Disney-like about that. They had Indiana Jones there.
Yeah. Heck, at the time, Star Wars wasn't Disney.
Well, that's the thing. Star Wars, Indiana Jones, neither of those were Disney. Both of those were licensed IP. And so other than the Mickey ears on the tower, there wasn't a lot of Disney IP there. They were really celebrating Hollywood, and maybe they were trying to make this the place where that probably was it. But anyway, back to the.
Hold on, let me build on what you said about the Great Movie Ride real quick, and before we get any further in this, it made me thinking about those parameters. What if, like, let's not forget what the original idea for the Great Movie Ride was. It wasn't supposed to be the big attraction in the new park. It was supposed to be the attraction in the entertainment pavilion in Epcot Center. In between,
really? I didn't know that.
In between Imagination and the Land. There was all that the facade was going to be in between the Land Hill and the Imagination Pavilion pyramids. There's a little path where there was a room, expansion pad room, which is where Soarin' is now. Right. But they drew up plans for an entertainment pavilion, and it was just going to be a big flat wall, looking like a painted sky, right? Like the end of Hollywood Land Street in California Adventure, like that sort of mural thing. But at the end, there would be a theater, and you would go in, and it was the Great Movie Ride. And when Eisner saw that plan, he said, no, I'm from Hollywood, right? I want to do something more than that for entertainment. And since I came from where I came from, and we knew about the plans for Universal to make a park out here,
Yeah.
I want to jump the gun. Let's do the same and make our own thing. And we're going to make
Yeah.
Hollywood out here before they do, and pretend like that's not why we're doing it. And we'll make this ride the main ride in that park, so it's all connected. And I wrote in my notes here during this conversation about the parameters that he was giving them, I wrote, we would have never had this ride if it was just a pavilion in Epcot and not a third gate.
No.
We would have never had this ride. We would have never had this episode. It wouldn't be in 5 parks or however many parks it's in, 4 parks. And I just thought, wow, like Michael Eisner and Frank Wells, but probably just Michael Eisner, is entirely responsible. Like,
Totally.
Like it could have gone one way or the other. And just look at like everything that would be different. That's wild.
Yeah, I think about it all the time. I think that Michael Eisner is a very unsung hero in modern Disney World.
Well, certainly his first few years. Yeah.
I mean, first decade, not first few years. It's his first decade. His second decade, when Frank Wells wasn't there to be his, to be the person that he could bounce off of. Yeah, he didn't make great decisions, but in those first 10 years, geez, I mean, everything. I mean, so much was there, and in reality, he started the idea of even creating different parks. Yes, they had Epcot, but that was a Walt's idea, even though it was an idea of a park. But creating new gates, creating new parks, all that kind of thing. This is totally random, but about the Great Movie Ride. Are you aware of the relation between the one in Hollywood with construction, anything like that, meaning anything to you?
No.
Okay, so the Chinese theater, the actual one, the Man's Chinese Theater, or whatever it's called now, that building was condemned. And that building was condemned because closed down for different things, and nothing was up to code. And they were told that they had to rebuild and do all sorts of things to this place to be able to reopen it. But at that time, they had already built it in Florida. It was there in Florida. It had been there for a while, and they needed to do a massive overhaul to it in California. And they actually licensed the blueprints of the Chinese theater from Disney World to rebuild the one in Florida, or the one in California. Yeah. So what the one in Florida is a copy of the one in Hollywood. But now the one in Hollywood is technically a copy of the one in Florida.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah.
Because they already planned it up to code. They already did all the work to do it up to code, and it was so much cheaper for them just to license it from them, and then they were able to do that. So I thought that was really interesting. So back to the Tower of Terror. So as they started talking about all the parameters, I just love the idea of all the Imagineers that were on this project getting paid to sit and watch all 5 seasons of the Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
I love that idea of them just sitting there watching the episode.
One thing I wanted to look up was how many total episodes was it? I forgot to look that up, but I'm just curious because 5 seasons, not a lot. Like, no. It's funny. It's interesting how influential this series was because of syndication and, reruns and everything. But, even when we were kids, I remember seeing it on TV, but it's an old flipping show, and they've tried to remake it or whatever since then. I haven't watched any of the new stuff, but that is great to think, like, I would love to have a job where I was a creative type and got paid to watch 5 seasons of a show to make some attraction out of it. Like that's the life right there.
156 episodes.
Oh, see, excellent. I'm glad that, yeah. So a total of 156. And most of them were like 22-minute episodes.
That's a lot, because, the season 1, 36 episodes. Season 2, 29. Season 3, 37.
Those are big seasons, yeah.
Yeah, they're big seasons.
But still, that's not that many to, like, be this epic. You know what I mean? Like, that's
totally.
impressive. Yeah.
It absolutely is. And there's been a ton of remakes, ton of reboots and all that kind of stuff. But the original Twilight Zone, um, it's interesting. My wife grew up in a family where there was no TV. They didn't watch. I mean, they watched movies, but they did not, television was vilified in their home. And so they didn't watch any kind of TV. And so I watched, I've watched every episode of The Twilight Zone as an adult with Caitlin because she
And
heard of The
I've only
Twilight
seen
Zone.
like 5 or 10 episodes. I have not seen that many at all.
Well, this was years ago when we did this, probably like 10 years ago when we did this. And we did it we started it around Halloween, because we wanted to watch, thought it'd be fun to watch around Halloween. We probably finished it in January or something like that. But it was really fun to do that. And actually, there's been a lot of things that I've watched as an adult that I would have never watched as an adult, except for I was introducing it to Caitlin. And then she was like, wow, this is so cool. So we watched all of them and went through
Dude,
that. So
we
I
live in a
thought that was fun.
glorious time when we're able to binge like that, and for all these silly reasons. Like we live in a beautiful time.
Totally.
But I love how they were able to, like, the way they justified that was not just to make a thoroughly authentic space, but I didn't realize they put so many Easter eggs in the
Yes.
line. At least the one
Yes.
in Florida, right? I didn't realize the guy's glasses were there, and
Yeah.
the little devil Jack in the Box thing was there. Like I'd seen those 2 episodes, but I never knew those things were in the line. Next time I go to Florida, I'm going to look for all those things in the line. Of course, I know there's a Figment in the line here, right?
Yes.
But I didn't know all these. Even the envelope that said Rod Serling, like that. I love that sort of immersion.
Yeah. And another thing that I thought was cool from watching this, I had been told and believed a Disney folklore lie. I had believed a Disney folklore lie, and that lie was that a rumor was that this was from a lost episode or an unused episode of The Twilight Zone. That's what I thought, and that's how they got the Rod Serling episode, how they got that at the beginning. But I was more impressed now knowing that it wasn't from that, and they did that with a voiceover actor. They did that. Did they use I don't know what they used.
Check it out. Check it out. I'm glad you brought this up because I didn't want to plug the guy's name. I thought it was odd, and I'm curious if there was a reason that they didn't mention his name. They just said
voiceover
actor, right? His name is Mark Silverman, and he is the only. He did voiceover work in Howl's Moving Castle. That's cool. But and a bunch of other shows and movies and stuff. But he's the only Rod Serling voiceover actor officially recognized by Rod Serling's family. And
wow.
So he's worth mentioning his name, I thought. But not just because I thought it was odd that he was left out of the episode, but because I was at some random Comic-Con one year. I don't remember. I've been to so many cons. I honestly don't remember where or what year this was exactly. Early 2000s, but I don't remember where. And I just walked by this guy at a booth. There's a little sign, Tower of Terror, Twilight Zone, and I'm like, who's this guy? And I'm a big Disney fan, was then too, but like I didn't know who he was, Mark Silverman. And I didn't even really click to me there. I just started talking to him because he had no line and no one cared at that moment. And he explained, to this ignorant guy like me, that he did the voiceover work, that they used the footage from that one other episode that they showed in this episode, and then they cut it, and he kept talking, but he did the voiceover for the whole thing. He had to match the bit of video they had, the bit of film they had. He had to match that, and then he went on and said the rest of the lines. I think the one clip they had was "This is you may recognize."
So
This is you may
they
recognize.
used clips.
They
Used
used
clips
that
where
clip.
he was saying where
This
it
is
fit.
you may recognize. Yeah, that
That
is
makes
a
sense.
maintenance service elevator, right? Like, but that was all Mark Silverman, right?
So
Like,
what happened there was they actually only showed Rod Sterling for a few clips, but
that's
that
it.
gave the establishment in my head
Right,
where
right,
even now I was believing that I was watching him the whole time, even though I
right.
wasn't.
Or hearing him the whole time, even though you
Yeah,
were.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. But
yeah,
in my
yeah.
mind, I was like, how did they do that? Like
Brilliant.
CGI wasn't a thing in
No,
1994.
no. Well. They had to splice in the elevator, right?
Sure,
Like
sure, sure,
they
sure.
did
But
splice.
not CGI for faces,
Right,
not
right, right,
not
right,
that
right,
kind of thing. Like if you go
right.
back and watch I remember how amazing I thought the CGI was for Jurassic Park back, I think it was 94, 95, something
95.
like that.
Yeah,
And you watch it now and their practical effects look amazing, but the dinosaurs that are CGI, it's very obviously CGI.
yeah, man. Yeah.
So,
Uh,
th- so that I thought was incredible. Then the whole concept of them showing the mechanics of how this elevator worked and the idea that you are pulled faster than gravity. I
yeah,
love
we had
that.
to mention that. We had to mention that.
I always thought on that ride two things. One, I always felt like we were falling really fast, but I also always felt like we were suspended in air in a way that I just thought it was my mind. But you're held for a little bit as you're going, and then they talk about that more when they changed the Guardians of the Galaxy even being more. But I thought that was so interesting, the idea that you're being pulled down just as you're being pulled up. Fascinating experience, fascinating idea of that being what they did.
Yep, yep. And I totally wanted to jump to Tokyo and jump to Harrison Hightower the third, Joe Rody, but we certainly had to mention that whole falling faster than gravity thing. That because that is something that makes it special, right?
Totally. And one more thing before we jump to the next thing is I thought it was interesting them talking about Michael Eisner said, I want the doors to open at the top. I've never once thought that that was weird. And then they're saying, well, the elevators don't move when the doors are open. And it was just kind of one of those things you just go, you know what? Sometimes we do things just for fun, just because it's fun and that's it. And
Well,
there doesn't.
I love the illustration or the video, and I think it's in the pre-show movie, like where it showed the lightning striking and the two elevator shafts disappearing. And
Yes.
for me, even as a kid, going on that in Florida when it opened, like to me that visually made sense. Like, okay,
Mm.
the whole hotel didn't disappear into the fifth dimension, just the two elevator shafts did. And those were the ones that you could stand in, or like those weren't the utility shafts. The utility shaft is immediately behind it. And that's why we're facing that direction. Like it even
Ah,
made sense to me as a kid.
that
Like
makes sense.
what like the justification of the storytelling, the visual storytelling made sense to me as a kid. And I guess we should also mention before moving to Tokyo that the Florida version's hands down the best because you move through the fifth dimension. Like
Definitely the
that was,
best.
as a kid, I
Definitely
thought
the
that
best.
was the most unsafe thing I'd ever done in my life. That the most risky, unsafe, unwise thing my parents had ever allowed me to do was to go in an elevator in a cart on wheels that moved by itself into another elevator, and that we just trusted the mechanics to keep us safe, right? Like, whew.
So you'll get a kick out of this. So when they finally opened, or when they brought Tower of Terror to California, and I hadn't been to Disney World, I was so excited about it as a when I don't know how what year it opened up. I don't remember it, but I think I was an adult already, or at least close to it when it opened. But I was so excited to do it because when I was a kid, this is synergy in action. But an ABC show, Family Matters with Jaleel White,
Oh, went
uh,
on it.
they went to Disney World.
Yeah,
They did
yeah,
a Disney
yeah.
World trip and they went on that ride. And so ever since 1995, I was like enthralled with, yeah, I want to go on that. I want to go on that ride. I want to do that. And so then when I finally did, I was like, wow, this is like, there was so much lore to it. And then when I went to the one as an adult 5 years ago, going to Disney World for the first time, I went on that ride and I literally was thinking about Steve Urkel going on this. And that was
Funny.
like my original thought of why this ride was cool.
That's funny. Yeah.
So synergy works, I guess.
Corporate synergy, man. Corporate synergy.
Well, let's go into Tokyo.
Of course, we love any mention of Joe Rody or his
Yeah.
face.
Yes.
But I wanted to. I brought a show and tell here. One thing that Tokyo does better than any other resort, and that's their merchandise.
I didn't
They
know that.
got the best merchandise. They always have the best merchandise. And I don't know from going, because I've never had that privilege yet, but I know from people like watching people like Tom Corliss or seeing what other stuff. I bought merch from people on eBay and stuff from Tokyo because it's cool. But a few years ago, I had some friends go to Tokyo during Halloween time, and they bought me a gift. They brought this gift home, probably expected me to put it together right away, and I haven't yet. Haven't even opened it yet. Maybe we should do an unboxing right now.
Yes, unboxing.
Of the Tokyo
Wow.
Tower of Terror. It's a little like 3D, little like, I don't know if it's metal or paper, or it's like an origami. I can't tell, but it's a little 3D box. Like, there's no way I can make that focus on there, but
Yeah, it looks amazing.
1,500 yen. I think that's about $15. I don't know what the exact thing is. It does just say Tower of Terror. It doesn't say, like, obviously not Twilight Zone, but it doesn't say anything about Harrison Hightower or whatever. But there is a little Shiriki, or is that the name of the little god on the bottom? Whatever cursed god that was. But I thought that was a brilliant way for them to not just build on the Society of Explorers and Adventurers and that stuff and that theme park storytelling, but also a beautiful way to put this ride in a park in a country where they had no clue what Twilight Zone was.
Yes.
And had really no pop culture about the paranormal like that.
Yes. Making it something like that was really cool. And I loved the idea of bringing him in because he had a scowling forehead.
He inspires me, man. Like, I want to be on a corbel. I want to.
I love that on the show, how they kept mocking him for using the appropriate word. But I don't know what people was, but
well, neither did I, but freaking Hollywood people make him feel like they're like teasing him, like, for using the right word. Like,
I thought that was really cool. Loved seeing all that stuff. I love that commercial that they showed. The commercial they showed I thought was hilarious, with him dressed as Harrison Hightower III, all lit up in green and stuff. I thought that was awesome. Really cool thing. But then I thought it was really interesting. They never explained why. Why was it that they said we need a new attraction in California Adventure by Memorial Day of 2017?
Yeah, that was an
11
awkward
months earlier.
transition. That was an awkward transition. there's some arbitrary decisions, like it's like and now we're going to get critical again, right? But it's like, what if they'd made Rock and Roller Coaster, which needs to be replaced and rethemed, the Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind? That makes total sense. That it even, like, heck, you could even change that Tower of Terror to be the Guardians, and then like have a little Marvel land, and it makes sense. Oh, we can't do that because we have an arbitrary schedule and it's Epcot's turn.
Mm.
And I think sort of the same thing was happening with we need to it's California Adventure's turn, but we don't really want to give it a full budget or full time or for a full schedule or enough of a window to actually do anything real. So let's just retheme something. What do y'all want to retheme? Let's throw a dart at the wall and see what it hits. Oh, here's a challenge for you, Joe Rohde, who's busy making Pandora.
Yeah, which is beautiful.
Bud,
which is the most beautiful thing created.
You feeling the heat, bud? We're going to turn the heat up more. We're going to turn the heat up more, and you're going to have to rely on your team. You're going to have to rely on the pressure of the moment and this artificial timeline and this very limited budget. Good luck. Good luck, guy who we may or may not be trying to chase out of the company anyway at this point in his career. Like I don't know what to read into that, man. But then to like think about those sorts of pressures and be like, oh, he not only knocked Pandora out of the park on a limited budget that, had some great things, but obviously shorter or with too many screens and too few animatronics or something. I don't know.
Every criticism of Pandora, I will defend. I think that place is beautiful.
Well, yeah, no one says it's not beautiful, right? And he knocked that out of the park, but then he even turned lemons into lemonade with turning this into a fortress or a power plant or some sort of place for the collector. It makes sense story-wise. Is it ugly still? Yeah, but it actually does fit into Avengers Campus. And is the ride arguably a better ride now? Yeah, arguably it is, even if the outside is still ugly. And the beauty of it is that there's 6 different versions.
Yeah,
like that's awesome, right? So like the pre-show is better than the old pre-show, which was already great. The story is almost as good as the old story. And the fact that there's 6 versions of it and it's upgradable for like Halloween and stuff, like
the monsters after dark.
That's pretty rad. That's a pretty well done.
I also think that the only people who aren't happy with it are like super hardcore fans. The casual fan absolutely loves it.
Yeah, they don't.
And almost all of them will say they love it more than the previous one. They love it more. And it was interesting them talking about messing with the physics of it and changing the feeling and them describing, like Joe Rohde describing a sense of fear, and fear is not all the same. The fear of falling is not all the same. The idea of this isn't spooky falling, scary, terror. This needs to be fun. This needs to be like you were thrown up like a baby thrown into the air.
Yeah.
And that idea was really fascinating.
They nailed it.
They did. They absolutely did. And like I said at the beginning, I was kind of cranky about it because I loved the Tower of Terror. But if I just look at it for what it is, like it's cool. It's a really cool thing. Yeah. And knowing that they did it in 11 months because of them just being told, hey, you got to do this. And here's your, I don't know. We decided it needs to be, like, they never said why. They just said it has to be done. And
they didn't even say it was because of the timing of the movie. Like they just said that was a happy accident. Yeah.
That was after. It was after. But the fact that he had to go, East Coast to West Coast for 2 different openings on the same
Same
day.
day.
Like, it's wild.
They were chasing him out of the company, man. Like, that's like, why you gonna treat someone like that? You don't have to do it on that day. You could do it on another day. Like, what's the problem? Like,
Yeah, you control the calendar. You could do it
like
another
you're in
day.
charge, right? Like I would love to hear the backstory eventually. Hopefully it comes out. But I do love shows like this. I do love their positivity. I love conversations like this. Both consuming conversations like this or having them with friends like you, because it helps me check my own cynicism. It helps, like, yeah, was I upset when they themed a park around the art, the what do they call it, Pueblo Deco art, architectural style, and they designed the whole retheme of California Adventure around what the Tower of Terror looked like, and then they change it into this ugly monstrosity. Like, what sort of forethought was that, right? But so, like, I was all upset about that. But you know what honestly makes me more upset, even than changing this ride or cheap rethemes or whatever, is carbon copies of attractions in other parks. And in reality, I do like the idea that the drop ride in Florida is different than the drop ride in California. They should all be different.
Yeah,
Every
totally.
park should be unique. You know, we don't need the copies, right? So I'm actually happy that they changed it.
Yes, because like I love that, and that was kind of my final conclusion after a couple years. One, I went, well, I'm being cynical, even though I actually kind of like the ride, but I'm just pretending I don't. And there was that for a while, and it's like decisions made of a mini multi-billion-dollar company that don't really care about what my thoughts are. And I said, I'm here to enjoy myself. So why don't I just enjoy myself? So that was a big part of it. But also I did think about that. And it was like, it's cool that they're different. I love that Matterhorn only exists in one place.
Yeah.
That is such a cool thing that it only exists in one place. I love the fact that Cars Land is only in California Adventure.
Yep.
And even the fact that the test track is, I think it's an identical track, or at least very, very close. And with that track of the same technology, the same thing, like, it's cool that they're not the same ride. I think it would be, if they just went, you know what, we're going to change test track to the Radiator Springs Racer. Like, it's like, no, it's that they're different. And I like that. I like that they're different. I don't want them to all be the same
Even if
everywhere.
they use the same tech. Yeah. The only thing I don't understand why when they do this is, like, if they go make a Frozen ride in another country and they make it identical to the Maelstrom, that doesn't make any sense to me. Like, you do not need to do that. Well, I forgot if it's happening that way or not, to be honest, but that would be silly, right?
Well, because it's a retheme, so why would
exactly. Yeah, you could,
like,
you don't need, yeah. But I do feel obligated to mention that I hate Guardians of the Galaxy.
Really?
How they make killing indiscriminate amounts of alien life look so cool with cool music from the 80s, and thousands of lives die. Thousands and thousands of people die as we're rocking out. Yeah, cool scene, bro. Like, oh man, that breaks my, I feel
now I just feel like a bad person.
Yeah, I feel obligated to like say that because those are the thoughts I think in my head, man.
Yeah.
Like because of course I think Guardians of the Galaxy is cool. Of course I want to be Star-Lord or Dave Bautista. And I think those characters are incredible, and Groot and Rocket and everything. But man, the backstory of Rocket is so depressing. And like there's some heavy topics that we just ignore and rock out to the cool music. You know what I mean? It's like, what are we glorifying here? But I do love the fact of different themed spaces, like
Yeah.
different, and every park being unique. And we could only wish that there was only one Batu and not two.
Mm.
Like, oh
Uh,
man.
yeah. Being completely identical. It's an interesting thing. But you know what you bring up about Rocket? See, I always thought that was kind of a part of it. Like Rocket does have an incredibly depressing backstory, but he gets to be included in this group and he finally finds inclusion. I kind of thought that
Sure,
was a
that's
part of the
beautiful.
charm of it.
It is. It is. It is. Like I think I've said this on previous episodes. In Star Wars, when people die, there's sad music. In
Yeah.
Disney films, when people die, it's off screen.
Yeah.
In Marvel, when people die, there's a cool music montage and we're rocking out.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing for me that feels wrong about Marvel.
Mm.
But like, I don't mean to be a total buzzkill. Like, having said that, they still knocked it out of the park with this. I hope they knock it out of the park with Cosmic Rewind. I hope that that's a very thoroughly fun attraction. I'm a little sad they didn't put solar panels back on that building. That doesn't make any sense to me. And if Star-Lord's not rocking out to the Universe of Energy song on his headphones in the pre-show to that ride, I'm gonna write a strongly worded letter of disappointment to whoever it may concern, because he needs to be rocking. I can't even think of the song right now. I'm too upset, but you go listen to that theme song from Universe of Energy, and oh man, I feel stupid that I can't remember it off the tip of my tongue right now. But he's got. I already see him rocking out to, and then like, oh hey, didn't see you guys there. Welcome to the pre-show. Like, that Easter egg has to be in there. Please, if anyone's listening.
Well, maybe it will, maybe it won't. But all in all, it's interesting. You said that we didn't have much to talk about on this episode, but apparently we were wrong, because we certainly do. We certainly did have plenty to talk about. Last thoughts on this episode.
I'm good.
No concluding thoughts, huh? You're just declining. You're pleading the fifth.
I'm surprised we did talk this much. I look forward to the Space Mountain one. I look forward to all the other future 5, and I look forward to consuming more content and discussing more with you. What about you? Your final thought?
I just like the idea, going back to the same concept we've talked about multiple times, is that change is the only thing consistent in Disney parks.
And celebrating it.
Yes. And in reality, we have been fans for a relatively short period of time compared to the existence of the parks. Even, yes, we were fans in childhood, but we didn't really know what was going on. And we see what's going on. And I think we think a lot about how things used to be, how things were, but I think things have always changed. And maybe the reasons for change might be different, but change is always happening. And I think that's a part of the joy. That's a part of the thrill of it, is to see things change and to see things different, instead of just going back to the same place over and over again. And here's an interesting thing. We talked to a lot of cast members on this trip. That's something we kind of made a conscious effort to do.
And you can do that if you don't have your kids with you.
Exactly. You can do that if you don't have kids with you. Also, you can do things at night. By the way, first time I've been on Matterhorn at night in like 5 years. And that ride is so much better at night. That ride at night. And I don't even think I'd been on the Matterhorn at night with the new Yeti, with the new Yeti that actually moves and is a really cool thing. I was sitting in the front row, and at one of the, when you're going through the through the inside of the mountain when you're going through. When it's night, it's actually pitch dark. And I was sitting in the front row, and one time you come around and the Yeti kind of jumps out at you, and it legitimately startled me. Like I was legitimately like, whoa, like what happened there? But anyway, we were talking to a cast member, and I found it really interesting because they said they work over here at California Adventure, and that they only work at Disneyland when basically someone calls in sick and they're kind of desperate, but their position was over here in California Adventure. And I said, oh, how do you like that? It's really interesting. What they said was, we love working over here and we like going there as a guest, because they said over there's a lot more pressure. Over at Disneyland, there's a lot more pressure to keep everything the same. And to keep everything the same because people are trying to recreate a vacation memory that they had 20 years ago. And they said that the expectations of them as cast members at Disneyland is drastically different than at California Adventure. Because at California Adventure, it's a newer place. It's a different vibe and a different feel. And I don't know exactly what I'm trying to get at with that, other than just that it's really interesting, and it's fun to look at things as taking it a little bit lighter and not making things so serious. And that's something I'm making a conscious effort to do, is sometimes I need to forget that, or I need to remember that it's not supposed to be super serious. And this is here for fun. So I'm going to have fun.
And I guess in that spirit, that's a beautiful way to end this episode, and keeping things in check, even keeping things in check so that not just so that we don't become cynical, but there was a quote by Joe Rohde at the end where, he can get real deep real quick, and he can get real philosophical, whether it's in interviews or on his Instagram. Or he'll go there. And they included a clip of him at the end where he talked about this remodel, and talking about more generally about him being a storyteller with real materials in a 3D environment, to create things. I don't want to butcher it. He said, and maybe talking about how these things, there's a lot of meaning behind a lot of what they do, right? But then when they do it, he hopes that, and maybe bring meaning into the world, like through the art, through the creations, through the content created, through the spaces created, that he really feels. And a lot of Imagineers have their own ways of articulating this point, but they really honestly, genuinely feel that in creating these spaces and these experiences, that they're actually making the world a better place.
Yes.
And that is just so special. And so I guess that's the point of this whole thing that we're trying to do, and the Creative Kingdom Society, and just to celebrate that. So
celebrate creations, and celebrate the fact that like who knows what the reasons were and whether they were right or wrong, but the fact that Joe Rohde was given his orders to make something, he wasn't even told what to do. Just make something. And then him with his team took creative ideas and creative problem solving and put that whole thing together in 11 months. And like you said, that's what we're here to celebrate. And I think it does make the world a better place. It makes my world a better place. That's for sure.
And now he's over doing it with Virgin Galactic.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't know what he's going to do there, but I'm sure it'll be great. But do you got any last words? Go ahead. He's making the
rocket ships look cool. That's what he's doing. I have no idea what he's actually
or the lounges where they sit before they go. I don't know.
I have no idea.
You got any last words before we close off?
No, that was it. That was all the words I got.
Well, then I encourage everyone to remember, keep consuming and keep creating.